Welcome to the show, everybody. It's so good to be with you all today. I've been loving the positive, emails, comments we're getting about the show. Some of you are asking for questions for show ideas. I will be having guests on soon from admissions offices, contacts that I have, work with from top tier schools that hopefully be very informative. But today we're talking about one of my favorite things to talk about. I talk about all the speeches I give and everything I do because it's such an important thing, and it's a phrase that I designed to give people the best understanding, even those who also in schools that work with students on the same things I do, helping them to get into top schools. It's one of my favorite lines, and the line is this: credentials and stats will get you in the door to be considered. Fit will get you admitted. What does that mean? That means fit gets you accepted and admitted. It means colleges are, when it comes to a certain point, they've wintered out who statistically is not qualified, who doesn't meet most of the statistics that most of the students have when getting into their highly competitive pool. Then they said the next question colleges ask is, which students are going to fit into the culture we like? And the best thing for me to talk about with this is to really give examples of schools that students and families often ask me about. But before I go into that, I really want to emphasize again, when students can, most of the time, who are highly qualified for school statistically, don't get rejected because they had a bad recommendation letter or because there was something that they did wrong. The university could have said, this isn't the best person for our culture. It's really no different in many ways than an employer like myself. I interview and hire teachers and employees all the time. And there are people whom I hire and people whom I don't, not because they're not qualified, I just don't feel they're the best fit for the culture of my company that I like, that we like to foster here. The same thing with colleges. Someone can be a great and fantastic candidate, even getting into other top tier schools, but not be a good fit for that particular school's goals and the culture they like to foster. Let's start with an example of a school, University of Michigan. They are a Midwestern school, a public school, a Midwestern school in the Midwestern United States. They like to foster cultures of teamwork, resilience, leadership, humility, caring for your neighbor, that small town, small community, Midwestern culture that is in its roots, which is why someone asked me, Mr. Buffer, doesn't Michigan favor students from in-state? Yes, that's true. One, because they fund the university, and two, because they're more aligned with the university's culture because they grew up there and lived there. So it's, for instance, University of Michigan, if a student is applying to Michigan as a, let's say, computer science applicant, they're going to favor someone who worked collaboratively, who was with others on the robotics team, or led a community project over a long time with a group. They showed leadership through collaboration, and somebody that was a very solo worker, very individualistic functioning student who maybe was an entrepreneur, even if they were a tech entrepreneur, the school's going to say, we might pass on this student. They might be a better fit for a school like NYU Tandon, NYU, who values computer science students with entrepreneurial inclinations that are highly individualistic culture of New York, East Coast, rather than us. So when I work with students and we have a high, especially when we start early, we have a few goal schools. We say, these are the schools we want to go to. We want to make sure that you are a genuine fit for that school. And if you are a genuine fit, let's try to shape your next few years and your application to make sure you meet that criteria. Again, credentials and stats will get you in the door. Fit gets you accepted. So it's not just, and this goes for 7 and 8 combined accelerated medical programs. People often ask me, Mr. Buffer, why did this student of yours get into University of Pittsburgh combined medical program, only 12 kids in the country? I say, one, that student was very qualified, but they were also a fantastic fit for UPitt's program with their collaborative tendencies, their dedication to research. They were also, a high standout student in their school. That's part of being the fit too, that many students and families and even guidance counselors sometimes overlook, because if you're not the top in your class, some of the programs want people that can fit into their culture. They want all of the top kids in their own school before they come to the university. Doesn't mean you have to be the top. You want to be within the top 10 to 15% for the top tier schools. That's part of being fit often. But the definition of fit doesn't encompasses everything: personality, experiences, interest as well. That's another secret too. Many people don't talk about. Colleges are not just looking to make sure that you're a good fit for them. They want to make sure they're a good fit for you also. People often overlook this because colleges ask questions about the way things you'd explore on their campus and do, and they're often saying to themselves, "This student is not going to be happy here. We don't have what they need. They're better fit somewhere else." So that's part of how colleges winnow out candidates, and part of that also is they don't want to accept somebody that when later on the student does research on the school says, "I am not going to be a good fit here." I had a student I mention often who got into 3 or 4 Ivy League schools and was wondering, he got rejected for lower schools like Emory and Northeastern, and he wondered why. And they could see that this particular student, he was not going to go there because he was definitely overqualified, and he wasn't going to be a good fit for their culture, even though he was a better fit for Ivy League schools. It can happen often. They knew he wasn't going to go there. He was unlikely to accept their offer. The things he was trying to get out of university, they could not give him the kind of research he wanted to do in college. And they clearly saw that and realized we don't align with this student's ambition. So fit is a dualistic perspective. You being a good fit for the college, and the college seeing they're a good fit for you. Okay? So, and part of being a good fit is showing authenticity. Colleges often will say, does this student's experiences, what they've done in 9th, 10th, 11th, and now 12th grade, align with the fit for 3 or 4 years of the time they put in with the kind of experiences students who've already been admitted and who enjoy it here, who thrive here, have done in high school? Colleges say past performance and past results are the best indication of future results. If these are the kind of students who've succeeded in our school, have gone on to do great things, made a great name for their university, okay? We want the same thing to come here, and they look for profiles that match the students, again, who are a good fit for their school. I often get asked when I do speeches or in emails I get, and people ask me about examples. So examples are great to give. One of my students, people see her on the wall in the Learning Center. She was admitted to Princeton 2 years ago. And parents often ask me, Mr. Buffer, what was the reason she got into Princeton and this student didn't, or this one, that? I say, well, I don't talk about students' individual statistics, but you can know she was definitely, it's private information, but she was definitely highly qualified. But what set this particular student apart, one of my students that got into Princeton recently, is that Princeton loves students that are civic oriented. They're very dedicated to their communities, improving their communities in a civic basis. They understand governmental affairs. They have a global awareness. This particular young woman was so involved with global warming issues. She led a global warming committee. She was recognized with a governor for her global warming, for her work on climate control, on climate change. And she was very knowledgeable about legislation that was in Congress at the time, going to the president's desk to be signed. They could see her awareness of political issues, and she was and the civic has to do with, we're talking about governmental affairs, aware of New Jersey state laws that were being implemented before most people were about climate change. She was very involved with that, and they could see what they were looking for. She wanted to be involved in her life in engineering, and she wanted to use research and her engineering career to make a difference in the world globally. And that's what Princeton was looking for. You want to use research in engineering and research in general research to apply to engineering, to her future career, and to apply to the world after she got in. So I hope that's an example why I often say, I hope parents, this is probably one of the greatest lessons that people who don't understand the college admissions process have to get to really help their children, is that stats are the baseline, not the decision maker, ultimately for colleges. Colleges ask themselves, I would say, 3 or 4 major questions that we want to be aware of and we work on. Will this student thrive in our environment? Will they contribute to our community and values? Does their vision match what we stand for here? These are the questions they ask. okay? They are looking for students' answers to those questions in their own voice that align with their past experiences. And that shows the key buzzword in admissions: authenticity and an authentic connection to the school's culture and values. I hope that was helpful and gives people great insight, because that is probably the key thing that I teach when I do workshops, when I do talks, when I work with families in my program, that you need to be fit for schools, not just qualified. Fit, not just qualified. Hope that answers, hope that solves, helps people get a bigger, more clear process, clear understanding of the college admissions process. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.